Hi, and welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I'm your host, the Water Dog, and today we're going to be looking at the discipline of Celerity. Now, Celerity usually gives you a lot of strikes, but we're going to be looking at the fact also today that it's going to be multi-action, because one of the things that I think is forgotten about Celerity from time to time is the fact that you can do multiple actions with this particular discipline. So we're going to have a look at some of the cards. Let's have a look at that first card. Our first card is Zephyr. It's an action modifier card. It came out in the unaligned in 2014. There is only 4 TWD decks. 4. That's it. 4. So let's have a look at this card. It says only usable after resolution of an unsuccessful action. At the inferior, unlock this vampire at the end of the turn. At superior, unlock this vampire. Now, why do I like this card? Well, here's why. If you're playing a combat deck, typically speaking, if you're going to use a card, let's say like Ambush, or you're going to use a card like Deep Song, vampires are typically going to want to block those actions because they don't want you to have things like the extra maneuver, or they don't want you to have things like where they have to make the combat choices first, and so they stop the action, okay? And so that's going to happen quite often in these intercombat decks, okay? You're going to have people that are going to want to block the actions, okay? So let's say I'm playing Bruja or Bruja and Tichabrew, or my favorite, a Jimmy Dunn deck, okay? You're going to have those combat actions stopped, and so from time to time to be able to unlock and then do a different action, probably another combat action, that's where Zephyr comes into play. The good thing is it doesn't cost you any blood to play it. None. I mean, that's one of the good things about some of the shall I say, actions or action modifiers that Celerity has, is they either cost you no blood, or at the most they're going to cost you 1 blood to do for most of them, okay? The really good ones, to me anyway. And so Zephyr does that. It allows me to unlock, okay, even though the action's been blocked, and so that's a bonus for me, and it's a freebie. So in a combat deck, I really like Zephyr for those reasons. Our next card is Fleetness. It's an action card. Came out in Keepers of Tradition in 2008. There is only 15 decks in the TWD database. And here we go. Action card, +1 stealth action. At the inferior, it's a direct bleed. At the superior, it's a direct enter combat with a tapped minion. This acting vampire gets an optional maneuver during this combat. Okay? So, oh, and it costs you a blood. Now, the first thing to note is the inferior, because if you're playing a clan that doesn't typically have a lot of stealth cards in it, let's say I'm playing Toreador and Tichabrew, that type of thing, well, it's very hard to get a stealth bleed off. And what this is going to do is this is going to give you a +1 stealth action to do a bleed. Okay? So right away, this is an action that gives you that. So that kind of helps in those cases. You know, so if I'm playing, you know, like I said, Toreador and Tichabrew, I want to use this particular card. Even like a Gangrel and Tichabrew, you can use this card. So you get that bonus of that extra stealth added to the card. Okay? The second thing is then you can then use the card to enter combat with a tap minion, and then you get the maneuver. So you have both of those things. And so to me, Fleetness plays very well with Zephyr. Okay? Because if I get my action blocked, be it a bleed or be it the enters combat, okay, at the end of that, then I can use my Zephyr to unlock. But Fleetness, the big thing for me is that I get that +1 stealth. Okay, I get that +1 stealth from Celerity on the bleed, okay, and I also get a maneuver in the combat, okay. So that's why I like it. I think it's a good card for that. So if I'm playing Toreador, like I said, Toreador and Tichabrew, I like that card in the deck. Our next card is Flurry of Action. It's an action card. Came out in Gehenna in 2004. Currently 50 decks in the TWD database. At the inferior, it says direct bleed. If the bleed is successful, draw 2 cards, discard down to your hand size afterward. At the superior direct bleed, if the bleed is successful, this vampire untaps. Okay, now, once again, a good Celerity card doesn't cost you anything, okay? And so what is good about the card for me is, let's say I'm hand stuck. Let's say I've got I've just got too many copies of the same card in my hand, doing a Flurry of Action bleed. Okay, if this action is successful, then I can draw a couple of cards, and then I can discard a couple of cards, and I can kind of reset my hand a little bit. Okay, but at the superior, if the action is successful, then I can then untap. So once again, I go back to saying, if I'm playing things like a Toreador deck, or specifically if I'm playing like a Bali deck or a Bana Hakam deck, where I can, utilize this action a lot for bleeding and untapping. And so it's really, really good. But I prefer it really in a Toreador and Tetrabrew deck, because I bleed, I untap, and then I can put off a political action next. Okay? But this card is also, like I said, very good in Bali decks, Banu Hakum decks, because they really, key off of that Celerity ability as well. But that ability to untap off a bleed is pretty good. Our last card today is Speed of Thought. It is an action card. Came out in the Sabbat in 1996. There is only one deck in the TWD database that uses Speed of Thought. So you know what that means? This is a Water Dog card. This is going to be a Water Dog card. And so let's have a look at this Water Dog card. Here we go. At the inferior, direct bleed. If more than one pool is bled with this action, ignore the excess. Minions without Celerity cannot block this action. At the superior, as above, but minions without superior Celerity cannot block this action. It's going to cost you 1 blood off your vampire. All right, so here we go. Water Dog card. Why do I like this? Because if I'm playing decks that require the edge, I love this. Okay, very similar to night moves. Okay, I'm going to try to get a bleed off that can't be blocked. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a bleed off that can't be blocked. And if I'm playing Celerity based vampires, okay, that don't have a lot of stealth, this is the way to get past a lot of blockers. Okay, it's just a way to get past them, and it's only going to cost you 1 blood off of your vampire minion. Alrighty, and so I can get the edge, and once again with the edge, I can do all of those things that I like to do, particularly if I'm playing like a Toreador or a Toreador and Tetrabrew vote deck, okay, where I can simply just go ahead and get the edge and have that extra vote on the table, okay? So I can get my bleed through, get the edge, get that vote on the table. This is a good card. If you're playing that style of a deck, I would have this card in there. So I'm really actually amazed that there's only been one deck that is in the database for a tournament winning deck that has had Speed of Thought, because to me of its utility of getting the edge and the fact that you're going to be able to get a bleed off. Okay, you got a 2-cap vampire with basic Celerity. Well, there's going to be a lot of cases where that vampire can't be blocked, and it's going to be able to get that bleed through for 1. That wraps it up, gang, for Celerity. Thank you. You watched the whole video? Congratulations. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Reading Between the Lines. I'm your host, the Water Dog, and if you like what you've been watching, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Y'all take care.